However, officials in Portugal have described the UK's decision to omit the country from its quarantine-free travel list as absurd. More on that story. People from England will still have to self-isolate for 14 days, a fortnight after their holiday, if they opt to travel to Portugal. What does that mean for businesses that rely on millions of holidaymakers from these shores each year? Peter Corbett, owner of Portugal Rocks Bar and Grill, joins us now from Albufeira. Peter, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. I think I'm right in saying you've been legally in Portugal able to open your bar for the best part of a month, but actually it's just not been economically viable so to do.
Yeah, that's right. We were allowed to open, I believe, at the beginning of June as the laws sort of relaxed and changed here. But opening still involves buying licenses and stock and obviously employing staff and electricity bills, etc., etc. And there is literally nobody here to provide any drinks for or any food for. So we've remained closed, basically like everybody else. There is very few places that are able to open at the moment.
I mean, how much of Albufeira's tourism trade is British?
Oh, crikey. You're in the high 80s, probably 90%, 90% is British and Irish. So a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing there's an expat community, but just not enough to make up anything like the shortfall.
No, and many of the expats don't really live in the tourism zones, the tourism towns like Albufeira, Vilamora. You find the expat communities live sort of further inland, and they live away from the tourism in the same way that many people don't live in the centre of London, but they work in the centre of London. So the expat communities outside of the town can be okay, but as far as tourism is concerned and all the additional trades that are connected to that, whether it be from airport transfers right the way through to hoteliers, bars, restaurants, travel agencies, holiday companies, activity and excursion providers, boat owners. Everybody is suffering here, very much so. And this latest announcement for not being on the safe list is absolutely crazy.
Peter, just to explain why that is so frustrating, the coronavirus rates, the incidence of coronavirus is high in places like Lisbon and Porto, but down on the Algarve, it's pretty negligible.
Well, if you look at the whole of Portugal, albeit that even one death is too many, but for the whole of Portugal, we've had 1,500 deaths in the entire country. We have been the safest country in Europe right the way through the whole situation. In comparison to sort of 30,000, 40,000 deaths in places like Spain and Italy, our numbers obviously are a fraction of that. We've had a very strict policy of social distancing. Everybody wears masks. Everybody's been furloughed from work. We've really dealt with the disease brilliantly, I think. And so to now be omitted from a list, it's 2-3 weeks ago, we were in the newspapers in the UK and on the TV as the safest, I think the third safest country in the world and the safest in Europe. And now all of a sudden we're not. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I suppose some people might say, OK, it's not just the UK that's decided to omit Portugal from the list. The Danes have done it, the Austrians have done it, the Czechs have done it, and that they're presumably looking at the same scientific data. But as you say, it can sort of turn on a sixpence. A few weeks ago, Portugal had a good reputation, now less so. But I suppose the flip side of that is, in a few weeks hence, things may be opening up for you.
Yeah, that's what we hope. Like you made a valid point before, that obviously the Algarve itself has been relatively untouched. We have had spikes in the north, in Lisbon and Porto, but still those numbers of cases, the spike cases that we're getting, it's still like 300 people maybe that have been infected. This isn't 300 people that have been hospitalised. This is just pure infections, 300 people. If that's classed as a spike, when 2 days ago there was 1,000 cases reported in France, I don't really see that's a viable sort of argument. But the decision is the decision. We just have to batten down the hatches and try and make it through to when we are on the list and we are allowed to have tourism here again.
And the golf that goes with it, as we can see from the corner of your room there. Peter Corbett, thanks a lot. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Thanks, Colin.